Today we are continuing with our topic from last week, persons with disability. The everyday lived realities in which we chatted to Agnes from Emerald Hill School of the Deaf. She highlighted a number of things as far as inclusivity is concerned, education, sexual reproductive health rights, and other issues affecting people with disability. The depth and extent of which she told us promoted us to change our whole script, of course, because you were there last week. And last week I was actually on the panel as a guest, and today I'm on the other side as your host, because we discovered that there are a lot of things that we would naturally overlook in society. So we decided that we should have a conversation further concerning persons with disability. And of course, I have our activist in studio today, NYAYA NYAYA, and she shared with us about things that she experienced, the horrors she experienced when she was married, and being a person who's married with disabilities, who had a very abusive husband. After her divorce, she became a full-time activist, exposing gaps passionately, the systems that is ignoring the inclusivity of people living with disabilities in our society. We also, of course, know that I had a car accident I always say last year, but it's now 2 years ago. And most of what I'm going to share is the disability that I experienced myself personally. Started a normal person without anything, then I had an accident. After that accident, it altered my whole life. And now I walk on crutches, started out in a wheelchair, and I'm unable to do certain things that I used to do prior from the accident. So today we are going to talk about the things that I experienced as a professional with disability, and also what NYAYA goes through in her daily life as a person who's living with disabilities. I am Sokostina, and joining me on sign language today is Siposihle Ndlovu. And ladies, welcome to ISSUES-PANE. Welcome back, NYAYA. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. Today we're going to be speaking about where we left off from last week. And of course, I know today we just want to send love to Rejoice, who's not feeling well at this very moment. And she was supposed to be seated in this seat. I was supposed to be opposite, sharing what it is that I go through. So there's going to be a whole lot of me presenter, me sharing my experience. But we will definitely want to speak to you and talk to us about what it is that you're working around activism. Is there any group that you subscribe to that is said this is for women with disability?
I sometimes work with deaf women included.
Okay.
Yeah. And as NYAYA, I work with anyone who has a disability.
Okay. So would you then, we want to go and do a recap for the video that we did last week for people who are living with disabilities, for when we spoke with the lady from the Deaf Zimbabwe Trust. But we also want you to highlight the different types of disabilities that you have worked with outside the both of us, which is crutches and wheelchair. What other disabilities are there?
We have the deaf, and we have those with cerebral palsy. We have those with muscular dystrophy. We also have those with autism, and we have some who have invisible disabilities.
Invisible disabilities, what are those?
Those people who have epilepsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't see it with the naked eye, but somebody could actually be moving around and they'll be disabled.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, I want us to go to that clip that we saw last week, and then we come back to our conversation.
About child marriages and teenager pregnant, because they don't understand these things. Then we have another girl last year. We took her in because we wanted her to help in the office. Then after 2 months, she tells me, Agnes, I have never had blood for 3 months with blood. I am like, if we had seconds, she told me, no, never take it. In every time I still warm there. So I took her to the clinic. The clinic said she must go and see the doctor at Paris. But if there were no doctors at Paris then, so I have to take her to my doctor. She was 27 years old, but she doesn't understand these things. So we go to my doctor, and the doctor said, we must go to the scan. She got to blood tests, then she got to the scan alone because I was out. Then she sent me a message saying, oh, Mr. Please, me pregnant, maybe like milk from the baby. And I am like, how come you pregnant like milk? Because she said, I never had sex. So next week I come back to her and say, let's talk. We say we never had sex, but you are pregnant because that is what this guy said. Then she told me, no, when I went to the my boyfriend, he told me he was just going to insert his penis. He told me just chimso. If we chimso, you are not going to get pregnant because it is actually not secret, Because I can't wait at chimso to me still place because he told me you are still a virgin. So I am still place. How come I am pregnant? But I never acted it. She swear on that. That is a challenge. Why? Because she doesn't get enough information. People can say, how come we don't have information when it is out there in pamphlets, in newspapers, in the media? But remember, because you are deaf, your understanding of English language vocabulary is very limited. So someone gives you a pamphlet and says, read this. Maybe you are going to understand 5% of what the newspaper says. And the rest you don't understand. The same issue goes with young men. Then we have some older generation of people, maybe around 40, they will tell you something like, it is a woman's job to cook and wash. If other people see me, a man father with 3 children, cooking, washing, people will start telling themselves, Baba, Papa, very still, I'm stronger. You won't know, I'm stronger from where Kumshaya. We'll get to some people still do it really from stronger because in many stupid I was. They say a lot of those things because they don't understand about gender, about sexual relation rights, about women's rights, a lot of challenges.
Wow. So there are lots of gaps there that are coming out. I like the one about the 27-year-old who does not have enough knowledge about what sexual intercourse comprises of. And when she falls pregnant, she's utterly shocked because not much happened as far as she's concerned. Now we just to move on from that, so we've noticed that there's a huge gap in understanding, a huge gap in information dissemination for people with disabilities, especially people that are deaf. It's International Women's Month. What is it that you have been doing as deaf women included?
What we do is we mentor young girls. We have clubs here in Laudry, a girls club that we started to it. We teach them about careers, about the kind of jobs that they can do. We call it girls can tell them, nothing will stop me if there is a will. So these girls, they learn life skills, including sexual and rights, because we know they can find that information somewhere else. They know we make DVDs for the children, because not every child can sign. We have some deaf girls who can't read the language, but if maybe we have the lamb, they will see that and they will understand the meaning without understanding the words. Then we make posters on sexual and rights. They make it learning for parents. Example, we have a community group in Dora and Ramtal. There we have parents and community leaders teaching them about child marriage. If we see mankind and the Midlands, they give a higher rate of child marriage and pregnancies. That is why we decided to focus in mankind and the Midlands. in Midlands who work with parents from Mushombe. Rely in maybe 60 kilometers from Quake. Where do you focus in Quake because they have gold panistry. So these gold panistry, they take advantage of my younger girls because they have the money. If you don't have food at home and someone offers you someone, it doesn't matter whether it is $5 or it is $10. You will just take it because you want to eat food. No. Then we also let advocates. We have an MOU with the Ministry of Health and Child Care, focusing on national health strategy to ensure that our voice is in there and the policies that focus on health, so that disability voice is not missed. Because if you look on our national health strategy, it puts disability and chronic disease. But you know, I am not sick myself. I just have years that you don't hear, but it doesn't mean that I am sick. I don't have disease. It is no. To me, definitely doesn't mean that I am sick. Maybe you can have a disability and have another chronic condition. Maybe example, I am diabetic, but my diabetic or my deafness does not define me. No. So people can't say, oh, she's sick because she is deaf. No, I never have a problem with my ears. They just sit, can't hear. But otherwise, I don't think we should have disability and chronic disease because it is not like TB. No budget that focuses on disability in the national health strategy. So if you are not in the budget, you are not going to get resources anyway.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Agnes Chindimba. She's the founder of Deaf Women Included, and her closing words there are that education is a right that should be availed to all children, not because they hear or they don't hear, or because they have a disability or do not have a disability. Thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. So we have been here at Deaf Women Included, where we've spent time just talking to Agnes Chindimba and finding out the work that they are doing and getting some nuggets there from how Agnes thinks and how she views the world. From here, we're going back to studio and Ndinonzi Rejoice, Naraunda Makawa on ISSUES-PANE NYAYA.
Thank you so much, Rejoice, and we are sending you more love and light, and that you get better soon, because we do want you back on ISSUES-PANE NYAYA. And of course, we want to extend a heartfelt acknowledgement and thank you to WILSA, to Christian Aid, to ESSID and UK Aid for bringing this episode of ISSUES-PANE NYAYA that is very inclusive and looks out for women who are living with disabilities. It is wonderful that women are speaking out of their own challenges and the desires that they want to change and to make our society more cohabitable and just to be more considerate for the disabled women in general. And we celebrate these women this month in Women's Month. And before we get into the gist of things and know what it is that we're talking about this week, we just want to recap some of the things we spoke about last week. Naspa, you were talking to us about some of the difficulties and challenges that women with disabilities encounter. Would you want to just remind our viewers what it is that you highlighted last week?
Thank you very much. Last week I was talking about mothers who have children who are disabled. And I was saying it's easy for a man to walk out of a difficult situation. And these mothers, they spend 24 hours a day caring for the child. While least she has other children who wants to eat. So she'll be doing a double job.
Right.
So I was actually saying, if it was up to me, or if the government would provide houses for these mothers.
Okay.
Not just houses for free.
Right.
But houses, there's this plan for house to rent. But the same government would create employment for those mothers again.
So these mothers, are they mothers with disabilities or mothers with children living with disabilities?
These are mothers with children who have disabilities.
And what happens to the mothers who are the ones who are disabled?
the mothers who are the ones who are disabled, it's like, it's sad, because I don't know whether men goes into a slumber and marry someone with a disability.
What do you mean a slumber?
And they wake up later on.
What do you mean a slumber does?
Because when someone marries someone with a disability, they are in love. That's what we understand.
Right.
That people get married because they are in love.
Okay.
So when someone marries you or me, saying they love me, and then tomorrow they wake up saying, how did I marry someone with a disability? Which means by the time we got married, that person was in a deep slumber, and now they've woken up.
Okay, I know last week you shared about your personal life, and I don't know if you mind if we go back to the conversation we had last week about how you experienced a lot of abuse when you were married. I want to find out, do you think he was in a slumber? Because you just highlighted that. Do you think he was in a slumber?
Being in a slumber, I meant the marrying part.
Okay.
But the abusive part, no. He had actually woken up.
Okay.
And he was just like...
So what was he angry at you for being disabled? What was... Tell me a typical day in the house.
I don't know. But what I know is men are easily swayed and affected by peer pressure.
Right.
It doesn't affect our kids only. It happens even to able-bodied women. If the relative starts talking, men are easy to take the side of their relatives.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this what happened in your marriage? Who was talking and who was saying what?
I cannot say it's his relatives, because normally it starts with your own family.
Right.
Because it's like your own family should learn to accept you as you are, and then we move on outside. Yeah.
And your family had not accepted you?
No, my family had accepted me, but we have what we call extended families.
Right.
I think you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. So what was your experience with this extended family?
It's just like people comment, you know. Because it's like if you do something nice and your other siblings or someone amongst the family doesn't match up to what you have done, then people start saying, why this one? Why not this one? You see?
Right.
Something like that.
No, I completely understand what you mean. And I want to take us back into a situation where I'm trying to prove that mothers with disabilities also deserve the housing that you were talking about. So the house that you were staying with your husband back then, you were in your 20s, was it disability friendly?
These houses, especially in our country, I don't know, maybe the time they were built, there were no such people like disabled people.
Oh, they were always there, trust me. They're just not disability friendly. Even now, people are building enormous houses that do not even consider that one day they could be disabled or someone within their reach could be disabled and want to access. So, I mean, so with the stoves, the things that you wanted to access, the fridges, were they accessible to you as a wife?
Okay, with my situation, it's different because when I'm in the house, I can stand up, I can move.
Oh.
I use my wheelchair, especially when I'm going somewhere where I can walk for a long distance.
Okay.
But around the house, I can do my chores standing.
You can do, and can you bend or kneel or?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so your biggest issue is in the walking because of the legs.
Yeah.
Okay. So, however, that being said, was it still accessible for a person like you, or if, let's say, if I came, because you see, people don't understand that wheelchair disability and crutch disability is actually different, because with wheelchair, your hands are accessible, but when you're using crutches, you cannot access certain things. So those are some of the conversations that wanted to find out, to say, if then a mother is disabled and has all these that they need to consider, do you think they can access the homes that they're staying in, go to the places where they need kunochera mvura, whether take a huni. Those are some of the conversations that we want to have.
No, they're not accessible. Yeah, because like you said, when I'm on a wheelchair, I can make a plan to carry my things. So when you're on with crutches, it's difficult because those hands will be your legs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to break, and of course we're getting very personal. We're talking to Naspa about how her experiences are in terms of being a lady and a mother, a friend, a lover who's living with disabilities. We'll be right back.
Generally, society has a tendency of shying away from tackling matters that disrupt the status quo. Instead, such discussions are either avoided. As a result, attitudes are created and truth reinvented. On this platform, we dare to venture into those territories. This is ISSUES-PANE NYAYA.
Welcome back to ISSUES-PANE NYAYA. My name is Sokostina, and on sign language is Siposihle Ndlovu. And of course, joining me in studio is disability activist Naspa Manyao. And I am still trying to adjust to the script because it was written for Rejoice, who we did mention she's not feeling well, and she just went under just before the show. So I'm holding fort for her, and I was supposed to come in as a guest, so I'll try and put that conversation together. If you must know, we are being sponsored by WILSA, Christian Aid, ISSUES, and UK Aid. And thank you so much. Today we're also going to be talking to an amazing conversation about maternal health, which is sexual reproductive health. And we want to talk to Emmanuel Mahlabu, the president of Zimbabwe Confederation for Midwives, here to discuss issues about maternal health with persons that are living with disabilities, persons with disability. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Sokostina. It's a pleasure to be on the station.
Thank you so much. Please do tell us a little bit about Zimbabwe Confederation for Midwives.
Yes, Zimbabwe Confederation of Midwives is a professional association of midwives in government, local authorities, and private practice. The primary mandate of the association is to ensure for the development of midwifery as a profession. It tries to ensure that every woman has access to a midwife during childbirth and throughout pregnancy. I must say then, when we talk about midwives in my terms, we're talking about people who have undergone a series of training that is according to international standards of midwifery and have been certified and licensed to practice by the regulatory authority, which in this case is the Nurses Council of Zimbabwe. Note is also the fact that today, as we speak, it takes 7 years to train a midwife in Zimbabwe.
7.
So midwives are highly trained people who are able to deal with pregnancy and childbirth in all circumstances.
7 years, like a doctor, 7 years.
Yes, this is what it is right now, and really, it's a big investment to train a midwife in Zimbabwe.
Oh, well, we've been downplaying midwives, and, I really acknowledge 7 years is a very long time. But lately, there's been a number of complaints, though, Emmanuel, about the attitude, not just lately, but it's well known that midwives are horrible to women that are pregnant. They are not considerate. They have been cited like 2 incidences, one happening about 3 weeks ago with Edith at a maternity clinic, and other people involving different people who have come up and said it is not right the way the midwives are handling people. And our biggest concern is women with disabilities, and it being COVID, there's a lot of concern about how midwives are taking care of people that are pregnant. Can you comment on that?
Today, I must be honest, there comes a dark period in every profession or in every nation, and this has been one of our dark moments, which we are really ashamed of. We honestly, as a profession, are not proud of the events that have happened most recently. These are events that, if we wish it were possible, would erase from our memories and from the memories of the women of Zimbabwe. Indeed, that is not in keeping with the dictates of the midwifery profession. Midwifery strives to ensure that a woman is safe. Remember that midwifery is woman-centered. It's a profession that exists most primarily for the safety of women.
Right.
So such incidents are really regrettable, and we wish that they would never repeat.
It's one thing to wish, Emmanuel. It actually happened. This happened to, being pregnant. I don't know. Maybe you've never been pregnant. Not maybe. I know you've never been pregnant. I've been pregnant. 9 months pregnant. Yeah? And you get to a place where somebody should help you to give birth, and all these incidences happen. I know it's one thing to wish, but how can it be corrected?
Tonight, midwives are people who work in institutions that are regulated by certain authorities.
Right.
This is the bad truth of the matter. We need to deal with these issues honestly so that we collectively seek solutions. We are talking of midwives who are working in councils, local authorities. We are talking of midwives who work in government setups. We talk of midwives who are in private practice. These are 3 different settings.
Why are they different? Why should they be different? You're trained for 7 years to look after women who are pregnant. Why should it be different where you work? Is it not a calling? Or you people only look for it as a profession, putting bread and butter? Then you won't care about the people you're looking after.
Tonight, to be honest, midwifery takes more than just a calling. There's a dedication, there's sacrifice, especially under the current prevailing circumstances. There are too many challenges that are at play currently as we speak. The midwives themselves have got personal concerns in terms of survival and their obligations to their families, which would normally don't want to present in a work environment. When a person presents to a work environment, they should be clear of their personal obligations because they should have met these before they came to the work environment. Regrettably, our current setup has seen people bringing their baggage with them because they've not been able to fulfill their obligations at home.
But Emmanuel, honestly, if everybody went off triggering and projecting their personal lives at work, then this would be a whole war zone. And I think it's an excuse to say if people are coming from where they're coming from, they've got issues, why then project it on a pregnant woman who is already suffering all by themselves? And then you say, because I'm coming from situations and circumstances, therefore you shouldn't hold me accountable because of where I am. It's not like your modules are divided to say you will be a nurse here, you'll be a nurse there, and you'll be a nurse at the other.
Yes, today I honestly don't want to be in this position where I'm defending this regrettable moment in our history. I have acknowledged it's purely regrettable. But, these midwives are people. I honestly don't want to continuously engage in defending these actions, but we are saying these actions are regrettable and we want to move forward and make sure that the safety of these women is guaranteed going forward. But like I'm saying, we urge authorities to make sure that the environment is safe for both the midwives and the women.
Okay, so my guest here is itching. She has things she wants to ask. Naspa, you wanted to ask him something?
Thank you. I wanted to ask if midwives are being trained about disability when they're doing their 7 years training.
Did you get that, Emmanuel?
Yeah. Yes. By the way, when we're talking about the 7 years of training for midwives, we're acknowledging the 3 years that the midwife has worked as a general nurse.
Okay.
So taking care of disability is already enshrined in of a general nurse.
All right.
We have put 2 years of experience where the midwife is putting the theory of 3 years into practice. So then they move from a novice to an expert before they go on to midwifery training. So when they come to midwifery training for 2 years, because midwifery training is 2 years, they are now reinforcing what they've practiced from general nursing and putting special emphasis to reproductive health and sexuality. Yes, midwives, both in general nursing and in midwifery, are trained to take care of disability.
Okay, so how do you explain the shock they portray when they see me sitting on a wheelchair, pregnant, and they say, men, how can a man impregnate you? And you are saying they're experienced, they've been to school. So how do you explain the shock on midwives when they see me being pregnant and they're like?
That is another regrettable situation that would have happened during that interaction. Actually, it falls into what is called disrespectful maternity care. Every midwife knows that that is not in line with their professional practice. But then you then have people at times regressing from their professional standpoint. And these are situations in which we have to continuously correct as a profession and as communities so that we do not continuously experience such events.
But Emmanuel, if these are issues that are affecting able-bodied people and they get to encounter a midwife who's either going through whatever it is they're going through, so how then do they handle the deaf, the blind, those that are crippled, or are they even trained? Is there specific training that says then if someone walks into the hospital and they're pregnant and deaf, are they able to handle and communicate and serve that particular person?
To take care of somebody who is blind and deaf may also need other special trainings, which, by the way, the intense program of midwifery training cannot fully incorporate.
In 7 years, you can't incorporate sign language.
While you see these programs have been developed quite some years back, and they are continuously going review programs. So as you're highlighting this concern, it then brings it to us that we need to also re-emphasize the need for people with special needs into our training. And there is also what is called ongoing training, where we then empower people with skills, especially when a need arises. As you have just highlighted, this is a need that needs to be re-emphasized on the profession to say that these gaps, as they continue to exist, we need to correct. Therefore, we can then look into our curriculum and see how best we can capacitate midwives again.
Emmanuel, you make it seem like this is a new phenomenon to you, like you're experiencing disability for the first time, and I'm just highlighting the need for it to happen. Are you telling me you in your family, you've not experienced anyone with disability?
Disability exists in all families, Tendai. We need
so
to be
why would we then overlook in a curriculum to say we need to ensure that you can communicate? And nurses are there to help every human being who walks through that clinic or hospital or ward.
Yes. Tendai, not that I say that midwives, first as nurses and also as midwives,
Yes.
they have received some training to take care of disability.
Okay.
But we continuously need to develop these skills, and we continuously need to re-emphasize the importance of responding to people with special needs.
Absolutely. Well, I'm challenging you, Emmanuel. I'm putting you in a corner, actually, to say they should be changed. We cannot. Yes, we cannot keep saying this curriculum was developed a long way back. Then we are worried if you are learning things that are current and things that are relevant to the people of Zimbabwe and people at large. But you know what? You and I will have this conversation again because I'm being told to go to a break, and we'll definitely be right back. But thank you so much, Emmanuel. And you've got homework because when I bring you back, I need to hear solutions from you, yes?
Yes, and I definitely, I honestly would want to reassure you that we'll really take care of this. NESPA will definitely take care of this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you after the break.
Thank you.
Back to the third and final segment of this show, Persons with Disabilities, and we are powered by WILSA, Christian Aid, ASSUES, and UK Aid. And thank you for joining us. In studio, I have Naspa Manyao, who's a disability activist, but I also like to welcome the National Director of Disability Affairs, Dr. Peter. How are you, Dr. Peter? Hi, Dr. Peter. As we wait for Dr. Peter, we just want to highlight that the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare is a... Hello?
Hello?
Hello. Dr. Peter, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're speaking to Sokostina from ZTN. Welcome to ISSUES-PANE, NYAYA.
Thank you, Soko.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. Peter, we just want to talk about certain things that are happening in the Ministry of Public Services, Labour and Social Welfare, because we know it's a ministry that handles department with people with disabilities. And you being a director, would you please tell us what it is that your department does in terms of people with disabilities, persons with disabilities?
Thank you, Soko. I would just want to say that the Department of Disability Affairs in the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare is the department that is responsible for overseeing the national disability agenda.
Mm-hmm.
That means we take care of issues that relate like policy issues,
Mm-hmm.
Legislative making processes that relate to disability,
Mm-hmm.
and implementation of programs in all the 10 provinces of Zimbabwe that relate to persons with disabilities. We do that in two ways.
Okay.
We mainstream disability in existing programs,
All right.
because in some instances, we need to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have programs that are targeted specifically at persons with disabilities.
Dr. Peter, why is it such a mammoth task to include people with persons with disabilities? Why do we make it seem like it's such an uphill battle? Why is inclusivity such an we are working on it type of situation?
I think what I would say, Soko, is there's a lot of inclusion of persons with disabilities that is going on.
Where?
Across sectors.
Where?
And then across sectors, for example, I'll give an example. On the BEAM program of education, we ensure that 10% of the beneficiaries are learners with disabilities.
Okay. That's we acknowledge the 10%. I would like to go further and say, when the 10% have been given access to education, are the education facilities then inclusive and make sure that these people can access Chikoro Chacho Mababa?
That's why what we are working on now, there is need to build capacity of our educators and staff in schools, because sometimes we can't expect people to implement things that they may not know. We can talk about inclusive education, but what is inclusive education?
Right.
It goes beyond just taking a few 6 children with different kinds of disabilities and placing them in what we call a resource room.
Yes.
They're with a teacher who is not who cannot even use sign language, but they're deaf children in that group. So we have started a process of strengthening capacity, raising awareness, going even to the level of the student teachers, like in teachers training colleges, to say, how do we broaden the training of teachers so that when they leave college, they are going into a school and they're knowledgeable in relation to, they know how to address the needs and concerns of children with disabilities.
That is so important, but that is what my question is. Why do we have to keep on engaging? Why can't the ministry just insist that there's a curriculum for teachers and learn how to handle students with disabilities? And I think sometimes we limit it to the deaf, the blind. There are those on wheelchairs, there are those with cerebral palsy. There are different types of disabilities, which, in my understanding, we're not even building infrastructure for schools to make sure that these students can actually access education.
Thank you, Soko. In terms of enforcing, I'm sure maybe you're aware, I'm not sure if you are, that on 9 February 2021, this year, Cabinet approved a national disability policy.
Right.
A first for Zimbabwe. And in that national disability policy, which will be officially launched very soon, all those issues are addressed.
Right.
And then there's also the Persons with Disabilities Bill that is seeking to repeal our outdated Disabled Persons Act of 1992.
Right.
And through that law, we will now enforce the Persons with Disability Bill has been considered by the Cabinet Committee on Legislation, and we are hoping that this year we will have a new act which says all these things.
Right, that act, we are excited about it, and I'm following it because I'm a recently disabled person, not because I was born with, but an accident recruited me. And I am living now with disabilities. But these are conversations of access to buildings. The building that you work in, for example, I can't even access it if the elevator dies. Is that not discriminatory? Does that mean that you're going to refurbish all buildings to make sure we can access them?
Yes, because you know what, I'll say so, because Zimbabwe ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. By ratifying as a country, we are saying we are committed to abiding by the provisions of that treaty, which is addressing issues of access, not only in terms of physical infrastructure, but even access to information, appropriate communication modes. So the process of we are domesticating that UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities through this bill that is before Cabinet Committee on Legislation.
Yes.
That means we are obliged to abide by the provisions of that treaty. So all buildings We have to work. I can't say we will achieve that overnight,
Right.
but we have to work towards enforcing this law, which directs that duty bearers ensure that every building is accessible to persons with disabilities.
Including
Otherwise-
shopping, Dr. Peter. You know, I haven't been able to shop in a supermarket. Zimbabwean supermarkets do not even cater for people with disabilities to go shopping. Pharmacies don't even give you access. Restaurants act like they're annoyed if you come and ask for table spacing that caters for people with disabilities. How rigorous is this reach out going to be to ensure that there is more sensitivity and being aware? Because you do know, I speak from passion because I was once as able-bodied as they come. And from nowhere, in a blink of an eye, I'm now living with disability. And I don't think we are conscious enough to realize that it can happen to anyone, anytime.
That is true. No one applies to be born with disability. No one applies to acquire disability. But we go back, I'll give an example. We get calls in our department
Yes.
by persons who say, please tell us what is disability. They're asking for the definition of disability. That means if we say, so there's a lot of awareness raising, a robust program that we have designed to raise awareness, to build capacity, to collaborate with different sectors, to talk disability, so that we are all conscious of it and we understand. And we're also even looking at, even in education, the curriculum of learners from ECD should include the subject of disability, so that we learn about disability from early childhood. Because like you say, it can happen to anyone, anytime.
And
Again, you walk into a shop or a pharmacy, as you say, but the owner of that supermarket or pharmacy, they are not conscious of disability because maybe they haven't acquired it, or maybe within their family there is nobody with disability. That is now our responsibility as the Department of Disability Affairs to raise awareness.
yeah, and I will definitely laugh at you because you said you walk into a supermarket. Some don't even walk into the supermarket.
That's so true.
They need to just access the supermarket. Now, there was an issue that was raised that once a woman gives birth to a child with disability, there's a hell breaks loose, and there is so much that is working against it. Is there any welfare that is given to people with disabilities in this country, be it mothers with children, mothers themselves, or any families that have disability? Is there welfare for them?
Yes, there is. We are looking at it. We are moving from, right now, there are social cash transfer programs. But you see, as you know, Soko, we are moving from this social welfare charity model of disability.
Okay.
We have adopted a human rights model. When we are saying this woman who has been abandoned by her husband, she has children, how do we empower her to establish her own livelihood source? How do we empower her to enter the formal labor market so that she can fend for herself, her children, because disability is not inability?
No.
How can she fend for herself, for her children, and even contribute to the development of our own nation?
No, that I am with you. I'm asking about a child who's born with disability and the family can't afford wheelchairs, family can't afford crutches. Is there welfare for them? Because not everybody can afford. It's actually quite expensive to be disabled. I can share that, and I'll volunteer at your office to help you with the development of all these outreaches. It's very expensive. That's what I'm asking. Is there anything that is set aside for people with disabilities that they can access in social welfare?
Yes, I will give an example. We do buy assistive devices for persons with disabilities of all ages, all gender affiliations, and regardless of whether they live in rural or urban areas, we are processing applications on a daily basis.
Right.
So assistive devices, assistance with healthcare when it is needed. Not that we are saying persons with disabilities are perpetually sick people, no. But when there is need, we buy. We pay for healthcare, we pay for education, we pay for... And, you know, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health has the at-risk surveillance system where when children are born with disabilities, there's a record. This child has been born with this kind of disability, and we are now working on modalities of collaborating with our department to see how do we follow up on those children.
Absolutely. You know, Dr. Christine, I think this, for me, it's a very passionate conversation. And I know this is the platform that you should engage ZTN and ISSUES-PANE when information dissemination starts as we implement the act that we got in February 2021. But I'm so grateful and would love to have another conversation with you. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you so much.
I live and breathe disability.
Me too. I am living with it. So I'm definitely going to thank you so much. We've run out of time, but I think this is a conversation that we should constantly have. And I think you should integrate yourself into all conversations that are happening in this country, because we are there. We go banking, we go shopping, we go to school. We also club. Did you know that? You should insist that clubs make sure we can go to club.
Oh, I wish we had included that in the policy document.
You should have. You should go and say addendum. Soko says we should do this. Thank you so much, Doc, and I'm looking forward to have a conversation with you. And of course, thank you, Naspa, for joining us. Naspa Imanyao, a disability activist, and we have run out of time, but we will be back again and we have this conversation because it's pertinent, it's important, it is us. Disability can happen to you anytime. In as much I don't wish it on you, I do wish it on you. I really do. That way, that's the only way you can fix things. So thank you so much, Dr. Christina. And you've been watching ISSUES-PANE NYAYA. My name is Sokostina, and Siposihle Ndlovu is on sign language. And we've been talking about effecting change, bettering the lives of people with disability. Change has to begin with you and me. So let's go out there and be more conscious. The mindset that gives us the order to realize and accept that disability is there and we live with it every day. Until next week, get well soon, rejoice. And this is ISSUES-PANE NYAYA. Thank you.